Tonight, Joseph is falsely accused of adultery with Potiphar's wife. That's right, his slave master's wife. And considering that Potiphar was a pretty powerful man in Egypt, Joseph was sentenced to jail. Now that's interesting because the normal punishment for adultery in Egypt was the death penalty. So when Potiphar gives Joseph a lesser sentence, this means that he might actually believe that Joseph was innocent. It's also interesting because in ancient times, prisons really weren't used that often for crimes like we have today. If you look in the Hebrew laws, you will see that the punishment for violating the laws include death penalty, fines, and sacrifices, but you really don't see prison anywhere. Egypt was one of the few ancient civilizations to actually have a prison like we think of today. Fortunately, we have an Egyptian papyrus that tells us about the main prison, which was in Thebes, which is modern-day Luxor, and about 500 miles south of Cairo. Joseph probably stayed in this prison because, well, high-up officials were placed there too. In the prison, there were cells, kind of like what we think of, but there were also large rooms that held large groups of people. Some of the prisoners were imprisoned for betrayal of the king, which was actually pretty common in Egypt. During the investigation, all parties were held in prison until things were just kind of sorted out. Ideally, whoever was innocent was exonerated and the guilty were punished. And that's actually exactly what happens to Joseph whenever he meets a cupbearer and a baker. The cupbearer was restored to his position while the baker was punished. Finally, it should be noted that the prison had a warden with the staff. Now, Joseph was actually promoted to be a scribe to keep records since he was literate. He probably used a pen just like this one. So there you go, a little bit about Egyptian prisons, and that's enough today for our Historical Minute.